Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we're going to be going over some of the big mistakes that you can make playing Wrecking Ball in competitive. To help us with this we have Eviltoaster, who is a main tank top 500 player who has been playing a lot of Hammond since his release. So he's going to go over the mistakes that he sees from other people. Before we get started, let us know your Hammond mistakes in the comments below that aren't just playing Hammond. Come on, we can do better than that. Like and subscribe, and do check out all of Eviltoaster's stuff in the description below. Now let's get started. So we'll get straight into today's video, Eviltoaster. What is the sort of first main mistake, one of the main ones that you highlighted actually, when it comes to playing Hammond?
Well, starting with the most basic principles of just shooting in general, I think one mistake that I see a lot of players make with Hammond is just not thinking about their bullet management. A lot of players complain and say, oh, Hammond needs more bullets or his clip size is really small, and they feel like they need to reload a lot. But I think really just more players need to just think about how they're using their ammo, because you have enough to one clip like any 200 health hero or more, but you need to really be sure you're going to hit your shots. And there's a couple ways to like try and increase your chances. And one is to just to reset your accuracy. Like the first, I think 12 bullets of Hammond's left click are always going to be like really super accurate, and then they start spreading. So if you're shooting someone at medium range, it's a pretty good idea to just wait and let your accuracy reset, because once you've run out of bullets, like your target's going to be gone and they're going to get healed or just run away, and it's just a hassle to try and clean it up from that point in time. So you really want to make sure that your full 80 bullet clip is going to get value. And when you're in close range, like, you could just hold off from shooting if someone's juking too hard and wait until you get a steady shot. Because you just, again, like, you really need to make sure you hit all your bullets. So if someone's juking really hard, you don't have to waste your bullets shooting the air when there's a low likelihood that you're going to hit. And
there's also the sort of like tip that honestly not a lot of people know about, is that you reload when you're in ball form for a certain amount of time, right?
Yes, it's 2 seconds, I believe.
And do you find that that's important as well to get out as much damage, or?
Oh, definitely, because whenever you use up all 80 of your bullets, you still want to be doing things. So by going to ball mode, you can grapple around and hit people or pile drive them. And as long as you're making sure you don't go back into not ball mode before your bullets are reloaded, you'll come out with 80 bullets and it's like you had no downtime.
So another key ability of Hammond's that I can see people making mistakes with is the shield. So what kind of common mistakes do you see? What is the biggest common mistake around this ability? When it comes to using Hammond's only mitigating ability, what can go wrong?
The biggest thing that could go wrong is that you don't even get any extra shield, because a 15-second cooldown for 100 shield is just not worth it ever. So you have to make sure that you are engaged, committed with the enemy team, even if it's just like 2 or 3, before you use your shield. And this works for multiple reasons, because one, after you take some damage and then apply your shield, your healers will be able to heal you and give you more health while you're shielding, instead of shielding before you've taken any damage and then they can't heal you. So then you're not getting as much tanking uptime. The other thing is that whenever you're dealing with any team that has barriers of any kind, you're going to want to engage as deep as you can, because the shields will block the line of sight for your shield's buff. So a Reinhardt that's holding shield in front of you, you will only get 100 health. Like, you don't get an extra 100. So if Rein is, in front of his whole team, you would think you would get 600 extra health from the shield bonus, but you're just going to get 0. So you really want to make sure you get in or knock up Reinhardt and get under them after a pile driver to ensure that you get a big shield buff. And that applies for Orisa shields, for Zarya bubbles, for anything. Like if you're against an Orisa, try to walk through the shield and then press the shield button, your shield button, and then you'll get the bigger buff.
Now, two main abilities for Hammond, basically the main sort of role that he has on the team, is swinging into the enemy team and being able to pile drive on top of them. But I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of things that people could do wrong when it comes to this combo, right?
Yes, there are abilities that kind of interact with each other in certain ways, and making sure that you could always get them off when they're on cooldown is going to be important. Because, there's a big difference between a team fight where you only get to pile driver once and pile driver 3 times. Because that's like big crowd control, and it lets your team shoot anyone who gets knocked up without them being able to move. It's just free shots. So you want to get those off as many times as possible. But what a lot of hamster players I've seen have been doing is that they kind of don't plan their abilities ahead of time. So for example, you'll want to grapple just to like bowling ball into people and hit them around, and like that's all good. But if you're doing that while your pile driver is free to use, then you're going to have a harder time landing a pile driver, because you sometimes will need your grapple to get you airborne in order to land a pile driver. So you need to be able to use these abilities together, and like this even goes with shield. Like if you pile drive people, that lets you get a free shield. So a lot of people will do is they'll just use whatever ability they have, but a lot of times it's better to just wait and be like, I'm going to get my shield in like 4 seconds. I'm just going to take cover. And then you come out, you get all your abilities off at once, and then each one of them becomes more effective. Whereas if you just try to pile driver but you don't have shield, you're just going to have to roll away immediately because you don't have enough health to tank. Or if you roll into enemy team but you don't have a pile driver, then you're just going to get focused too easily, and then your team won't be able to follow up. Like, it's all just a matter of comboing your abilities, and if you think you can wait just another few seconds to get a better combo, it's almost always worth it.
Let's go over the ultimate now, which is one of the hardest ultimates to place in terms of when and where to use it. So how should you use the Minefield, and how shouldn't you use it?
There's two like main points of like how people have opinions on the Minefield. One is like how high should you use it or how low to the ground, and the other is like just like you said, when. And as far as placing it like high in the air, like a lot of players like to do like big flashy play where they grapple really high into the air and then they deploy a huge minefield that spreads across like the whole play field and then pile drive on people. But the problem with that play is that when the mines are so spread apart, it's hard for any one enemy to get hit by multiple of them. So sometimes, especially in tighter areas, you just want to wait until you're like just a decent distance above the ground, then deploy your minefield and then pile drive, instead of doing it at the maximum height you can. I'm sure it looks cool, but it's not always the best. As for timing, it's totally okay to just minefield at the start of a fight. Like, or even before a fight if you think you could zone people off, or if they know that they have to go for an objective. Like in an overtime situation, you know players have to go on to a point. So you could just minefield there like 10 seconds before, and then overtime starts and they're like, well, I guess I have to walk through mines. But outside of overtime, like the moment that the enemy team makes a committed move, like, you know, like tanks jump in, for example, you could just plop the minefield, because as long as it's doing something, it doesn't matter, because you're going to start building your ult charge during this fight. So if you deploy your minefield early and you do like, you know, a decent team fight, you're probably going to get like 50% back. And then in that situation, you could just say, well, I only spent 50% of my ult charge for this fight. And then you could think, well, is 50% ult charge worth just doing it to do it? Because it might help. Because even if it helps a little bit, that's worth 50% ult charge. Anyone would take that. So it's totally worth it to just be a bit more liberal with your minefields here, as long as you're in position to build more ult charge.
And finally, we've gone over all of Hammond's abilities so far, but what is like the main common problem that you see people making that has to do with all of his kit?
Definitely the most common mistake that any hamster player will make, and any hamster player will make this mistake, especially in solo queue, is having any kind of uncoordinated engagement. Because Hammond has probably one of the best engage combos in the game with his pile driver. It's just very fast, it has a very big knockup, and it does pretty good opening damage that'll destroy any like opening armor. But in doing so, everyone on the enemy team is immediately going to turn on you. And if you don't get a big shield and if you don't get any support from your team, you're gonna die in like 2 seconds roughly. And that's not enough tanking time compared to how other tanks can do it. But you do draw aggro from everyone. So it's really strong and powerful, but you need your team to follow you up. So if you're going for an engagement and your team is not ready or aware of where you're going to land, then it's going to hurt you. And some will say like, oh, this makes them bad in like lower elos because teams aren't coordinated or not paying attention, and like there's some truth to that. But if you're a hamster player and you're in solo queue trying to get a good engage for your team, it's going to be up to you to just wait and be patient and look at your team and see, okay, my team is now coming out of spawn, but maybe there's one that's still respawning, and I'm just going to wait. Like, wait for your whole team to be grouped up. Try to talk to your team and be like, wait for this guy, and then I'm going to engage at this place. And then when everyone is ready, then you can go for it. And if you can do that, it'll be infinitely more effective, because you really need everyone on your team to be ready for your push, because you will die. Like, sometimes it's not even wrong to die. Like, if you get the biggest pile driver ever, maybe you like chunk down one of their supports or whatever. But if you get like a 7-point shield or 700 health shield, and the whole team spends all of their cooldowns to crowd control you and kill you, then like you're traded your life for your team's superior position and all of the enemy team's cooldowns. In some cases, that's totally worth it. In some cases, but it's only ever worth it if your team was ready. If not, they're just going to get their cooldowns and health back, and then it was worth for nothing. So your timing and coordination is extremely important with this character.
So they're the 5 mistakes that we really wanted to highlight. Finally, where can people find more of you? Hopefully not making these mistakes yourself.
Oh boy. Well, you could find more of me on twitch.tv/Eviltoaster. I stream a lot of Hammond. I stream roughly every day, and I do make I do make mistakes quite often, but it's all part of the learning process. And of course, the higher SR you are, the more these mistakes will happen. Well, that sounds strange, but the more you are tested, because you're playing against very good players.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. You can check out Eviltoaster doing all of these mistakes, obviously, on his Twitch channel. All of that is in the description below if you want to take a look and follow him. Would recommend it. He's a very good player, and you can't say no to that voice. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.